この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for Orb episode 9, and our promised trio has connected. At least I think they're going to be the promised trio. I can't think of anybody else in the OP or elsewhere in the show who would be like added onto it to make it a 4-man band or even a 5-man band, unless things get crazy and we actually count Piast as one of them. But I'm not getting ahead of myself. Our trio has come together, and with that, I'm kind of expecting things to start rolling, because it's this collision of minds that I think is going to enable them to really tackle the problem, and they're right on the cusp of potentially, and I think it's been hinted at strongly enough that it's almost a sure thing, potentially getting an insider, in an insider with access to institutional support from within the astronomy world. Count Piast is wavering on the edge, deciding whether to give them his golden astrolabe, and with it, his blessing, and potentially access to the other resources at his disposal, most notably the library, but also there's an observatory, and there's the big swirly spinny thing, and all sorts of stuff that he has access to. But doing so would potentially invalidate his entire life's work. So we've placed this man who is in a position of power in a very strange conundrum. He's at the end of his life, about to die, and the candle that he's been bearing forward from the man that he talked to that day when he was a youth that we flashed back to is going to be continued on by the other people in his little group, but not seemingly to his satisfaction. So, here at the end, a brazen group of 3 comes and approaches him with an impossibility, something that would force him to give up everything that he's worked for and everything that he believes in and everything that he's fought for and cemented and tried to find evidence for years and years. But in doing so, they present him with the opportunity to actually grasp the truth. And so we've boiled down one of the core ideas of the show. What is more important to you, you or the truth and finding it and sharing it with the world, into this one old man's conundrum? And I think it's kind of brilliant, and I expect and hope that he will show up and give them the golden astrolabe, and with it his blessing and access to the library and all of those things, because I want him to choose the pursuit of truth over himself, over his ego, over his legacy, and in doing so, potentially actually cement his legacy and make it far more than it ever would have been if he was just another of the ongoing hundreds, maybe, of astronomers who follow the tradition and hold to the line of what is believed, even when the evidence doesn't quite match up. How grand it might be for him and his legacy and his tradition and all of those things if he were instead the patron of the people who came up with the real idea and figured it out for real. That would be pretty neat. Would it be enough for him to commit heresy, to throw away everything that he's worked for until this point and the ego that is attached to it? I don't know. Those are almost tangible things. We can't see them, but they appear in the characters' actions and motivations, and I don't know which is stronger here. His desire to grasp the truth, his scientific mind, or his need to be right from the outset, whether the actuality lines up with what he believed when he started or not. Yeah? Will he be willing to change his ideas to match the evidence, or will he insist that the evidence must be wrong or, misunderstood in some way, and try to mold it as he must have done for the last years to fit the worldview that he is setting forth from the outset? I don't know. Again, I have my expectation and I have my guess, but we're going to have to watch the episode to find out. And I'm also really wondering what other wrinkles are going to come into play here. it would not surprise me at all if this is the point where we move toward revealing Novak's presence in Yolenta's life, which would be very scary and potentially bring an element of fear to things. But I don't really know what Orb is going to do at this point. Besides, I think things are going to start spinning a little bit faster because the trio has united. I'm really excited to see how their dynamics evolve now that we've sort of shed the pretense of, I mean, the various lies that we told to Yolenta and the various lies that she told us in order to make this whole thing happen. Now we can actually talk sort of directly about what we're doing and attempting to achieve here, and I'm curious and excited to see where the show takes that. So, I'm going to draw something, then we'll get right into the show. Okay, I want to try to make this pretty crisp and clean, so I'm going to do a very rough sketch in very light pencil, and then probably try to go over it with pen. Something like that. Maybe anatomical? Yeah, brains are cool. Meh. Alright, maybe a little bit ambitious for clip art style stuff, but I had this idea. I wanted, like, eye, heart, and mind all being pierced by revelation or by an idea or something like that. Sort of to symbolize our trio. I don't really know who's who in the trio, although Oxy is almost certainly the eyes, and I'm not really sure if Bedeni is the brain, but I think he probably is, the, like, hyper-rational, and, that would leave Yolenta to be the heart, which feels like we're just sort of shoehorning her into a position in order to fit the theme of my drawing, which probably isn't accurate. She's probably going to contribute in a whole bunch of ways, but it is sort of her heart that's in the thing, if you will, you know? She, like, can't stop herself. She's got this emotional compulsion toward the thing without it being necessarily rational or terribly a good idea for her. So, in some ways, I do think it fits. In some ways, I think it's a little bit ham-fisted as a metaphor or a symbol, but that's all right. I don't care that it's ham-fisted. It's a scribble. It's a drawing, yeah? And I really enjoyed going and looking at all the different pieces and sort of trying to draw a brain for probably the first time that I've ever actually sat down and tried to draw a brain. Probably not. Probably have done that once or twice before, but brains are complicated. Brains are interesting. Okay, let us now fill our brains up with the contents of Orb Episode 9. Not sure what's gonna happen here, but let's watch the episode and find out. Two versions, picture-in-picture in the description, timer on YouTube, early access on the Patreon, beep beep timer to count you down. Beep beep timer. Okay, great. We're starting with Count P asked. There's something I must see before I die. This one is when his torch will be passed. I got some. I thought he was gonna say he had some secret documents, but maybe that's it. Maybe that is what we're seeing here. But no, this is just all the research. Whoa. Okay. I can only guess at the actual meaning of those words. Is there a but? No buts. Hmm. Hmm. Similar to Bedeni in some ways. It's not finished. Okay. Wow. You're ahead of me, huh? Wow. Wow. Too great a burden. And an open offer. I'm so glad that we're focused on Piast again. That's where my intrigue really is. Hmm. Hmm. What did he just see? Did you just see a meteor or something? Hmm. Don't worry, it wasn't really the Does he mean the phases of the things, or? So how does he get from there to the Piast that we know now, who's dedicated to it? Yeah, okay, offer's still open. Ah. I'm dying. I'm out of here. Hmm. So what did he see that night? It all clicks. Except Daga. Mm. Mm. So it's to those errors that he attributes the flaws in the model. If only I could be better. That is the opposite of dying satisfied. Ah. Oh. That's what he asks for at the end. His literal last words are not, tell me that my model is right and you've done it and proven the thing correctly. Tell me the fucking truth. That is a tough place to be in. Yeah, okay, so he takes on... Whoa. And he does believe that that model is correct, so he continues pursuing that model. But inside, there's this moment that lives within him of watching this professor that he really cared about, this, like, surrogate father figure in some ways, die in desperation and fear that he had worked his entire life for something that was false. And at the end, he doesn't want the reassurance that he's right. He wants the truth. Just like Oxy watching people die and forming an opinion about what's really worthwhile in life, I think this... Now that Piest is in the same position, coughing and knowing his own body, how can he go down that road too? This is cool. That's a really cool setup. I'm sorry for talking through this brilliant dopey. But the ideas, man! I'm sorry that I'm yawning so much. I slept really badly last night. Have you now? Ah, ah, ah. Okay. Okay. Oh, whatever the event was. I wonder if it was like the Green Flash or something? Okay, I gotta know what he saw. Okay. I've brought up that Venus having phases is a critical problem. Mmm. Mmm. Fully bright Venus. Okay. Okay, so it's a perfect test bed. Ooh, an eye exam. Okay, we're gonna find out how good Oxy's eyesight actually is. Mmm. You got it, Oxy. You lied, it's a triangle, bitch. That's the smart way. Oh, he's good. Okie dokie. See you tonight. See you tonight. We're gonna throw down under Venus. Yeah, no pressure. No pressure. And all the world is bad and everything that I've been taught. That's your bias, my guy. She is the heart. She is the heart. I've seen the truth. It is audacious beyond belief to believe that here could be good. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, they are. That's a great way to phrase it, too. I've had a couple of those. It's time! We're going. You're not getting out of this. We need telescopes, man. That's crazy. Yeah. You could bring heaven here. He's beginning to believe! You are the chosen one, Akasi. He's beginning to believe. That was a great monologue. The whispery, uncertain, building breathiness. Little postcard memory. Shoutouts to... Oh, 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 I'm gonna shut the fuck up. Piano, piano. Oh shit, there are clouds. Yeah. Oh, shatter the model, huh? Wow. Fushigida. Yeah. Ooh. I was wondering how the title would fit it. I'm always wondering. I stopped mentioning it, but like, gosh, that's good. That is what it feels like to learn something. You're looking at a leaf, and suddenly it's more than a leaf. It's a system of like tubes and holy shit. Oh my god, he's gonna die now? No, he's just freaking out. Okay, okay. We knew that would happen. We knew this would happen. Yeah, you're all just after my money. Right, it could still be doing loop-de-loops. But you're just trying to smash puzzle pieces that don't fit together. And you know it. Oh, okay, you're just gonna retaliate. Oh. Truth. Truth. Truth, baby. It's a sword. It's a silver sword. I want to know the truth. Cuts through. Brilliant, Bedeni. Oh, yeah! Full access. Institutional support. Oh, he can't give it up. Yeah. That's kind of funny. It's still kind of funny. Poor old guy. It's such an interesting representation of the, like, respect for the past that I've included in my bearing the torch analogy. But when the torch is wrong. Oh, that's super interesting. Does the truth need us? Does the truth need us? That's an interesting line. Did he go in alone? We're just gonna steal his shit. Alright. Whoa. Whoa! No, we need your brain! And your heart! We need your heart brain! Win! Finish it! Victory! Yeah, for sure. Why would she ever get arrested? It's not like she knows somebody who's who's involved in arresting people for this. Yeah, which ones? Dude, there were a lot of records in there. Did you mark the ones we... Okay. Bye, Yolenta. I guess that's it. Oh, he's gonna learn to read from her. That's what we're gonna do here. Yeah. Ooh, she's gonna say reading is the closest thing to God or something like that. She's gonna say something heretical. Oh, I agree. Whoa, he full pogged. Of course not. But they're like blessings, miracles, yeah. She's on the same shit I'm on. Yeah. Yes. Correcto patronum. Yep, just the tiniest little viewpoint. You can travel. Yep, time, space, and minds. Yeah. Miracle. Ping pong. Bingo. Will you teach me? Can you show me? Fuck. Oh, buddy, you're gonna die out here, aren't you? I mean, maybe not. I shouldn't try to predict the show too much. Oh. 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 Uh-oh. Anybody could find that. Uh-oh. I have seen that Venus is full. Perhaps heliocentrism is correct. Also, my collaborators are Badeni, Oxy, and Yolenta. Oh, he sees the stars. He's dying. He's out of here. Rest in Piast. Oh, he believes he's found the truth here at the end. End the episode right there. Come on, give me the cut. Oh, it's his mentor's statue. We figured it out. And that's gonna be the end, yes? Okay. This is one of the better episodes of Orb so far, isn't it? Isn't it? Is that just because I really like some of the ideas that are presented? And like they happen to be close to my heart and I'm biased in that way? Yes. I think it's also like thematically, emotionally, bookends, structurally, like one of the best episodes of Orb we've had so far. Alright, we'll talk about it when we get there. That's pretty cool. That was really loud. Okay. Cool. I think this might be my favorite episode of Orb so far. And I think, not because there's much super fancy going on or anything like that, but I think that the themes are incredibly strong in this one. I think it sets out to answer a particular question: what will Count Piast do? And the entire episode is sort of perfectly dedicated to that decision-making process and that emotional reality that he has to weigh against physical reality in some ways. But the sort of the structure of the episode is what stands out to me. A lot of the episodes of Orb, I can tell that they're pulled from a chunk of the manga. And I can tell that the manga just continues around it, right? They're not structured like an episode. The manga comes up to this point because it's telling a continuous narrative, and then we just select the chunk that's next in the manga and then select the chunk that's next. And this is not an uncommon feeling, and sometimes you can spruce those up a little bit and make them feel a little bit more like they're a cohesive episode, but it's hard. It's hard when really the cohesive episode is like 4 pages in front of this and 12 pages after it, and we can't really fit all that stuff in. So we kind of get like a chunk of the episode, but then the themes bleed into the last one and bleed into the previous one and bleed into the next one and all that jazz, right? That's happening here, and it's happening throughout Orb, but this is bookended and put together with the flashbacks and the sort of start and finish rhyming together with the two death scenes and the idea of truth at the end. It all sort of like starts there, builds to somewhere, and denouements back to right where we started with new things revealed and learned over the process. So it kind of like takes us, silly to say, but truly full circle over the course of the episode from where we started to where we end up. It's like we end in the same point with something learned, which just clicks and fits with all the rest of the stuff in all the other episodes in a really, I don't know, in a really compelling way. As opposed to trying to shove puzzle pieces together that don't fit, this episode feels like it's a puzzle piece that unites a bunch of the little puzzle pieces that have been established previously in the other episodes. And for that to be the feeling that I get in an episode where we get sort of the first, what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with an E. Empirical, the first empirical evidence that our little group has gone and grabbed themselves for proving this thing. I mean, you could say that the retrograde stuff is a part of it, but this is like a strong confirmation. The Venus stuff is a strong confirmation, and we're going and acquiring that, and that's one of the puzzle pieces that fits all the other puzzle pieces together, you know? At the very least, even if it doesn't completely eliminate all other possibilities, it narrows them down really significantly, and heliocentrism is one of the possibilities that remains within the acceptable space given the empirical evidence that we've observed. So it's like this powerful move in the direction of proof. It's not complete, but it's something, and it feels emotionally, because of the content of the episode, like a powerful move in that direction as well, within the minds of our characters and their grasp of things, and specifically for Count Piast. I think that the way that this little piece of story around Count Piast's decision, as I said in the beginning, it seemed clear to me that he was wavering on the fence, so we build up to it in the previous episode and have established that question from the outset. It's what my question was going in, and the episode hits us hard with that precisely, just the details around PS that we need to establish his narrative and make it as compelling as possible. And I think it does an extraordinarily good job of very concisely delivering precisely the details necessary to make this a compelling connection between him and his mentor, a compelling, like, comprehension or understanding of their relationship to the work. Oh man, it's cool. And his repeated refusals building up to finally accepting the thing kind of mirrors like a hero's refusal of the call to adventure and then final acceptance of it. There's power to it, and I believe it. I believe in the interpersonal dynamic that is tacked onto and added on top of the sort of like broad cultural pressure to succeed at the thing and prove it right. Then you've got this interpersonal direct relationship, sort of I said, surrogate father figure, right? Like, who wants you to carry on his life's work and succeed him and find out that it's right. But that's not what he says at the end. What he says at the end is that he'd rather have the truth, and that changes everything. That changes everything. I think this is brilliantly done. It leans on a couple of the emotional beats that we've had before in order to accomplish things without saying them explicitly or saying them outright. So, for example, at no point during this scene do we mention satisfaction with death or the experience of dying unsatisfied or any of those things, but we watch Count Piast's mentor die, sort of freaking out, desperate, not certain, unsatisfied, having this terrible fear that he has wasted his entire life's work because the fundamental assumptions that he was relying on are false, are wrong. And I don't think you can watch that scene, having watched the rest of the show, without thinking of Oxy watching people die and be unsatisfied with it. And so we integrate that portion of the motivation sort of cluster that we've created for characters into this set of motivations for Count Piast and for his mentor. Man, it's cool. It gives him this responsibility that's not just social or his, or egotistical, but personal in his relationship to somebody that he cares about, to pursue truth above all the other things. Okay, let's go through some of the dialogue, moments, and impactful scenes. I think first I want to start off with sort of skimming through and looking at the whole large-scale structure of the episode. Because in my mind, we've got these, like, dying scene bookends, and then the sort of build up to his challenge around Venus, the question of Oxy's eyesight, and then the reveal of the reality of the thing coming into learning to read, and then Piast's death at the very end is how I've got it framed in my mind. I just want to run through it and make sure that that's sort of correct. So, yeah, observation, eyes have failed me at last, the reveal of the whole space inside, the multiple epicycles, the beautiful thing, the road to truth. I could never completely prove it. I will perfect it, but then he sees Venus in fullness and can no longer fully believe. He's got doubt in his mind. But he doesn't really believe, but he also doesn't really, like, disbelieve, you know? It's both. Okay, so I won't do it. And he's sort of calm and cool about it, but he's not right at the end yet. He's not reaching that despair. He sort of like laughs it off. Haha, no worries. It's all chill. Sorry, I shouldn't get into the details. I want to really just run through this quickly. So now we experience his deathbed, and he's in despair. His work is never complete. We attribute that to his errors. I keep doing it. And then we do this sort of beautiful painterly scene as he says the truth. Okay, and at that, he accepts his burden, his mission, takes on his mentor's role. I will perfect the cosmos, sort of in his name, but also in my name. Cool. And on this side of things, on this side of the timeline, I will let you have the records, but I need you to do something for me first. Disprove that Venus could go into fullness. Okay, I'm going to do the thing that I've done for the last times that something cool and mathy comes up. I think I understand this one pretty well. You need a model that puts Earth and Venus on sort of opposite sides of the sun, at least to sort of on opposite sides, so that we can see Venus and it's fully illuminated by the sun, right? And if they're both just orbiting around us, then there's no way that would happen, because, like, how would that happen? Having trouble putting it in my brain. This is some Galileo stuff, huh? Oh, okay. I was having trouble wrapping my mind around why Venus would never be in opposition to the sun in a heliocentric model, but of course not, because it's circling so much, like, closer around it. So it's always with the sun, within 47 degrees of the sun in the night sky, because they're so close together. The closest that it gets to being in opposition is when it's on the far side, or on the like maximally close side. When it's the closest to us, directly in between the Earth and the sun, it's dark, because we're only looking at the dark side of it, and so we'll see like a corona around Venus almost. And then when it's on the opposite side, it'll be invisible, because the sun is in between us and Venus. But anytime that it's on that side, it approaches very close to being full. Final phase. Okay, whereas in a geocentric model, it would never quite occur that way. The sun and Venus could be on opposite sides of us. Or Venus could be doing little epicycles in between somewhere, which is what they seem to believe, was that it's sitting in between Earth and the sun and doing its own little epicycles. I think one thing we can't rule out with the information that they've presented in the show is the idea that the sun still orbits around the Earth, but Venus orbits around the sun. That would still match observations, I think. I'm not really sure. Look forward to anyone who throws stuff at me in the comments. I must see it. I thought this little scene with setting up the visual, the graphic, and then shattering it with all the characters coming in, and then bam, and it shatters the graphic, is so freaking cool. So that's sort of like our high point of the episode. I think that's our climactic point, and it happens at the 14-minute mark. Okay. This is what it means to learn something, and that's where we've extended our eye catch to. And then we have the pushback against it, and Badeni finally cementing it with, "Are you just being stubborn, bro?" And finally it sort of breaks him. He breaks him down with truth, which is really fucking cool, and we'll talk about it in a minute. We'll talk about the thousands of years of passed down information, because that's fucking incredible. And then we have our conversation about reading and writing, which is brilliant in isolation, and I think I could probably talk about for an hour. And then we have Piest's death and the reconnection and the book ending, which also connects him with, like, the people who have gone before in search of this truth, with Rafal and with Hubert, who've seen this same beautiful sky. He can finally deliver unto you the truth. I really thought that we were just going to cut right there. I think it would have been a little bit stronger if we had, but I am glad that we stay for this one moment, because it cemented for me finally exactly who that bust was, which I just didn't compute earlier, and now I finally get it. Bam. And that's the episode. Yeah, I think it's structurally really smart. I don't know if they moved stuff around from the manga or just selected the portion really effectively, but this feels like great adaptation work. I don't know that I would say that for the rest of Orb. I haven't read a bunch of the manga. I did read the first, like, chapter or so, after having viewed them, of course. In part to go and look for some, like, visuals from the manga to grab for like the little intro thing. So I've seen some of what the Orb manga looks like, and it's very much one-to-one to the anime in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is just the way that this chunk or chapter is done in the manga, but I think this is a great piece of adaptation. I think this is really well story told. I think the emotional impacts all, like, hit at the right beats at the right times, and the whole thing really comes together and feels coherent. I think it's brilliant. Okay, let's go back to the beginning, and then I'll actually get into the weeds of all the things that I can't help myself from talking about. Eyes have failed me into talking. The wonder at all this stuff that has gone before, which we see later as he's contributed his own work to this pile. He was really reluctant to give up the key, because it's an amazing piece of work. No one but me has achieved this precision. This is the universe in its proper form. I can't help but be reminded of, like, the monk teaching Oxy scenes, stuff like that. But here, instead of being against bright backlights of heaven and all that stuff, we're in this sort of dark warehouse. It's interesting. This set of phrases is also interesting. I've sacrificed everything else for this one pursuit. And there's no indication at this point that maybe I might have fucked up because I've ignored literally anything that might go against the one thing that I'm trying so desperately to prove. It seems like you might have pigeonholed yourself, yes? I never needed collaborators. This is also interesting because it mirrors Badeni. It demonstrates to us that a line he's about to say a little bit later, that the road to truth is narrow and perilous, is true, and that our characters have a bunch of the characteristics, individually at least, that have led people astray in our previous dealings with different astronomers and different people, whether that's a disbelief in the potential goodness of reality, or a fundamental focus on the self and proving it yourself and the ego that goes along with that. We see those elements in a bunch of our characters, and it will become a question moving forward whether they will in turn be able to overcome those within their own lives, or if they'll fall into the same pitfalls and rabbit holes and traps that previous generations have. That's, like, the ongoing struggle, yeah? And one of the ongoing conflicts of the show is characters choosing particular things, whatever they are, over the truth. I wouldn't tell anyone, so why tell me? Well, I'm getting real old, and I'm not sure. Everything that I'm capable of at this point, you have surpassed me. The road to truth is perilously narrow, but you may be capable of reaching the end. No pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. I don't want the pressure. And he's out. That's our first refusal. I think there are 3 total. It's at least 2. It's beautiful. To him it is a beautiful idea. So 2 epicycles, they're just doing little orbits as they do orbits, something like that. That helps explain things, probably. Can I really do it? Of course I can do it. Audacity is important. But then he sees Venus, and it cannot be. It's impossible. And his eyes will have declined over time from here. So, like, how he can't prove it. We don't have telescopes. Also, I'm pretty sure that the whole Venus thing is pretty close to unobservable without telescopes. I don't know. So we do this sunset hue, and I'm strongly reminded of the scene where Piast asks Yolenta about the treatise and is sort of turned down, told not. I'm not sure why. I guess it's just because it's the same space. This shit's brilliant, but I'm not good enough. I can't carry the burden. And again, he kind of laughs it off. Haha, it'll be too late when I'm about to finish it. And so we fast forward 5 years, and he's not going to finish it. Did you turn me down because you doubted it? No. No one could ever doubt how magnificent it is, but he harbors doubts. The man himself harbors doubts. When you double down on something that you have to believe it because your whole identity goes out the window if it's not true. A lot of the layers of that are wrapped up, whatever that belief is, a lot of the layers of that are wrapped up around this, like, sand grain, this like, irritant that is the fear that you're not actually correct. I think you see this is a strange place to take it, but you see this in grandiose narcissists. At their core, at the deepest core, is a seed of a belief that they're not good enough, that they're actually inferior. And so layer by layer built up around that is an ego and a mindset and a set of beliefs that says the opposite. I'm not only not inferior to other people, I'm superior to them, so much better. They could never understand my brilliance, yeah? It's the same kind of a process. I wonder what it is about how our brains are structured, how our minds work, that makes us double down on something when we are actually afraid that it's not true. Some kind of defense mechanism, but I'm not really sure exactly what the mechanics of it are. Curious. Because it does appear to me, just on cursory inspection, if you will, that it's almost universal, like that this can happen in pretty much any field. Like doubling down on a relationship where all the evidence demonstrates that the relationship is not what you thought it was, but people double down and double down and double down, like, no, it's gonna be great, it's gonna turn out super well. It's like, no, you're getting fucking abused, this is not going well. Why do we do that? Maybe it's part of our set of mechanisms for coping with things that we can't handle, you know? I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. It is a perfect, precise, sublime, everything clicks. But it never is finished. There will always be errors, but it's not only that. That's what he tells himself, is like, something in my observations isn't quite right. I'm getting something wrong. I'm not good enough to figure out why the math doesn't line up. But every time he comes up against that problem, he has to avoid it, has to push it out of his mind and be like, no, the math doesn't line up because I've made a mistake somewhere, not because everything that I'm working on is mistake. But that's what terrifies him. Completely wrong down to its basic assumptions. And if so, despair, true despair, an entire life wasted. No, that can't be it. So Piast doubles down for him, kind of, right? We get to externalize this what I see as a dialogue that has probably happened within his mentor's head a couple of times, a couple thousand times maybe, but now we externalize it, and he gets to say it out loud. Is my whole life a lie? No, I simply lack the ability to do it. And now instead we have Piast say it for him because he's able to verbalize it. It was not a mistake. Okay, one day in heaven, tell me. He doesn't say, tell me that my model is correct. He doesn't want to know that at the end. That's not what matters. I think I asked at the very beginning, what's going to matter more to Piast? The truth or his ego? His legacy? To his mentor, the answer was the truth. And that, in his final moments, is the great gift that he's really given him, is a final call to pursue the truth above anything else. And an emotional appeal that forces his hand in some ways. So he's gone, and Piast has decided, I'll be perfecting the cosmos. I'm out of here. That's pretty cool. Okay, OP. And here we are back to the present. I will let you view my records, but you gotta show me about this thing. I mistakenly saw something. I know it to be false. So you must prove it if I am to show you my records. Cool. I have to imagine his motivations are very conflicted at this point. But to even accept the possibility of experimental disproving of something that he holds to be true is leagues more scientifically minded than most of the characters that we've met and have pursued this kind of thing so far. And I think that's worth crediting. He has this nagging doubt in the back of his mind, and instead of burying it, he asks the people who can actually help him prove or disprove it to go and do so with experimental validation. And I think that deserves a little bit of credit. Venus in its final phase. It will never... So I did see diagrams like this, which are pretty cool. Some of the original, like, sketches and stuff. So the current model, or at least many variations of it, would be ruled out. But, so would the opposite be true? If we can't observe it, your model gets ruled out. So it's kind of the perfect test bed. Or at least a perfect preliminary, like, filter, right? I do like that he keeps calling them imbeciles. I don't know what the word that he's using in Japanese is, but it's very funny. When Venus is small and far away, it should appear full. So that's another wrinkle to it. Of course, when Venus is closer to us, it appears larger, and when it's far away, it appears smaller. So why is it that when its phases get fuller, it gets smaller? How strange. Well, because it's getting further away and it's going around the other side of the sun from us. So it makes perfect sense, huh? I like the eyesight test. There's a little bit of a solid build-up to it, and the reveal that it's a trick that he put a third one and gave him an A-B multiple choice is perfect, because he could, if you give him an A-B multiple choice, he's got a 50% chance of getting it right, and you're gonna bet the future of all of science on whether Oxy guesses 50%, guesses on a coin flip. Fuck that. Put a different weird shape on it, and he does. He puts a D, and it's perfect. You'll do. So Oxy's real freaked out, and I really like this scene because it kind of lays out the emotional stakes really clearly. The emotional and religious stakes really clearly for us. And it puts all these layers of pressure on Oxy and his eyes, and will I be able to see the sky at all? And, it's cool. Oh, and will people believe me? But it also is like therapy. Yolenta really does act as the heart here for a little bit. I feel like it's true that the world is the bottom of the universe. It feels really shit. And she's like, is that because your life has been shit? Yes, 100%. And she believes, I don't think she believes that, but she understands it, and I think she has experienced enough of the indoctrination that leads to it to understand where he's coming from. But she has another sort of gut feeling hunch argument, as opposed to Oxy's glass entirely empty. She's like, the glass is fucking full. It's not just full of water, it's full of other things, and it's all beautiful. Look at this world. Look at all the plants and animals and the violence and the horror and the sin and all these things, sure, but even those are kind of beautiful in their own fucking way, so maybe there's something more to all of this, which I think is a pretty beautiful perspective and closely aligned with my own. There must be a reason for that. And if the earth and the sky are one, instead of saying that they are united in heavenliness, she says simply that the light of the sky will never leave the corruptness of our world because they are connected. And that's when we end our little conversation, which is really, ooh, it's tight, man. It keeps things up in the air and fuzzy, but emotionally charged now. Won't he refuse to believe it? Yeah, but I'll know. Are you worried? Absolutely. What I see today will shape the universe. I was merely caught up in all this. All I wanted to do was go to heaven. But the most puzzling thing is that right now I want it to be true. He's beginning to believe. Please hope. That's it's pretty excellent. It's pretty excellent. You know, there are ways in which I'm willing to look past, like, detail and beauty in a piece of animation or piece of storytelling to effectiveness. And I think about stuff like Ashita no Joe, which I watch on Thursdays. And something about this episode feels a lot like an episode of Ashita no Joe, where lots of things are a little jank, a little goofy, a little old school. There isn't quite enough production budget to make everything come together exactly the way that the people envisioning the episode would have wanted for every episode. But there are still these moments where you can see and feel what they're going for. And it's like, I recognize that and I see it and it feels good. There's a piece of me that wishes that it was done to the nines and like really smashed out of the park and like totally top tier gorgeous and beautiful. You know, get that top tier studio treatment with all the post processing and the shiny stuff and the cool motion graphics and stuff. But there's something really beautiful about something as simple as a postcard memory on an impactful line leading into the eye catch, right? Or I guess this isn't even toward the eye catch, but you know, there's something beautiful about that. And I think that it works really well here. There are, I think, two of them in this episode, the death moment and then this hope moment. And I think they both land really well and accent the rest of the episode. It's cool. I'm a bigger and bigger fan of postcard memories all the time. These like single, potent, emotional, dynamic shots that accent a moment and cement it into memory. I think they're really powerful, like a powerful animation tool and storytelling tool. Okay, so up we look. I must see it. And the music build, the piano, all the characters whose hearts are in this, who are all being struck at this moment by this beam of light. I'm really happy with the drawing like idea that I put down on paper today because it fits for me. And it shatters the model. He sees the truth, and we are all illuminated and bathed in the light of truth. And Oxy gets to give us a beautiful little line. It's the same sky, but now it looks so different. And Videni follows up with, this is what it means to learn something, I think. That's a cool way to phrase and define learning something, yeah? You see something, and now you know something about it that makes you see it differently. The example that I brought up was like a leaf. You look at a leaf, beautiful, interesting, looks like a leaf. You learn how a leaf is structured, the like cellular structure, the vascular structure, the way that it's all put together. You can look at that same thing in a totally different way. You know? You go and you look at the diagrams of hearts and brains and like get an idea of what they really look like, and you can look at them in a different way. Then you go deeper and you start to understand what they actually act like in motion when they're alive and like a living, breathing thing, and it's incredible. It adds layers to your perception. To look at something, the same thing as before, and now see it differently is what it means to learn something. I like that idea. Oh, Count Piasti gets bowled the fuck over. It's a lie! You're trying to trick me. No, no, no. Even so, it doesn't necessarily prove anything. My model is still correct. So, but then he pushes him. Is the universe that's created by that thinking God's creation, like natural and aligned with what we really see? Or are you fabricating it out of your own stubbornness? How would it look to you? And he can't respond, right? He's just enraged. So he gets really defensive. You can never, which is kind of fun to have old man screams at young men. All of this history should never be so easily denied. And his scream here almost feels like really iconic. It feels like I've seen this before in other characters. Raging rampage. You don't know about the truth, you youngsters. Yeah, well, what if there was something powerful enough to deny thousands of years of books and theory? Greater than needs or will. Merciless without prejudice. What do you think that thing would be called? If there were a thing that would disprove all the weight of authority that you bring to bear, what would it be? The silver sword, the cutting edge, the razor, truth. I like that a lot. I like it a lot, man. And getting him to admit it, too. I would call it. Call back to the moment. Ugh! I would call it truth. You know what's up. So we pick the old man up, and he gives us the key, but not without a little bit of a tug of war. How many years of life? And he's right, it's not just his. It's not just 30. Just an age joke. It's not just his. 2,000 years. If all those years did not lead us to an answer, maybe the truth never needed us at all. Oh, it's so interesting. It's so interesting because what is truth without someone to observe it? It's just existence, and there's a real question about whether that exists without somebody there to observe it, or, something there to observe it. Tree fall in a forest and all that hypothetical can of worms. The truth may never have needed us. The planets might go on spinning exactly the way they are if life was never born on our planet, yeah? All of that reality could go on without us. It's a terrifying thought. It's almost like trying to imagine existence before you were conceived, Like, you can't really. Imagining truth going on without us to search for it or perceive it is strange, but I don't think it's an uncrossable gap. Reality may not need us or anything thinking or conscious or observing at all to keep on just doing what it's doing. That thought comes with a strange emotional package. I'm not really sure what to think about it. Even if we were wrong, what we have written will have meaning. That's a good take. I pray for that to be true. All right, so we've got cool documents. We don't tell Oxy which ones we need, and we tell Yolenta we should be done here. So she's going to get done here, but she's going to keep teaching Oxy to read. So she's going to end up getting pulled back into it because obviously, how can I repay you? Finish the task. Sick. Also, if we happen to be arrested, say nothing. Yeah, okay. Why would we ever? Okay, so she almost walks away, and he has the audacity, let's go, Oxy, to ask about reading. And he does it in such like a tentative, nervous, kind of cute way. Ugh. Oh, it's cute. I wonder if we're gonna do any sort of. There's been no evidence of it, but I wonder if we're gonna do any sort of romance between them. Kind of cute. What does it feel like to be able to read? I don't really know anybody who can. And her response is beautiful. She's afraid to say it to make this comparison. I use these words not lightly at all. They're miracles. And her justification's even better because it is 100% what I believe, and one of the ideas that is the nearest and dearest to my heart and informs quite strongly what I am doing here right now, which is engaging with work from the past, in this case, not the very distant past, but also, engaging with Galileo and engaging with the entire field of astronomy and this fictional pursuit of it and all of that stuff. But I'm engaging with an author from a completely different culture who's telling a story about another completely different culture in a fictionalized time period. Uh, and exists halfway across the world from me and has a completely different perspective on so much of reality, and yet has arrived at a huge bunch of thematic or core beliefs about the world and existence and ways of being that I find extremely compelling. And being able to put those together across time and space is, I'll agree, a miracle. It is magic, literally techno space magic. And it has been such since the invention of reading and writing, but we get a solid acceleration point with the printing press, and then we hit really incredible exponential growth with more modern technology. And now here we are getting our brains melted out of our ears by TikTok. And welcome to the glorious future, I suppose. In any case, I do think that they're fucking miracles. I think that communication, storage of information, and the ability to transfer it from brain to brain is like spectacular. Spectacular. Truly like an order of magnitude shift that reminds me of the early evolutionary shift between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, like the ability to structure individual automat. I guess automatic would be the word, but I'm trying to use automata. Individual automata cells into a larger structure. It changes everything, and the ability to structure individual organisms, you and me, into a structure by talking to each other fucking changes everything. I mean, it changed things when it was just grunts and hisses, when it's what parrots can do in terms of social dynamics. Once it's what we can do, where you can write down a bunch of ideas in a book and change people's entire way of being for the entirety of their lives, to the extent of like writing stuff in a book and somebody gives away everything that they've ever worked for their entire life in order to pursue something spiritual, or reads the book and gives away everything that moral that they've ever perceived in their life in order to wholeheartedly fight some cause. That's fucking crazy, the amount of power that's involved there. And it can be used for good and darkness because it is not some miracle granted to us by a benevolent creator. It is a human creation, a tool, a piece of technology, and it can be weaponized and it can be misused, but it's also uh, used rightly, whatever that ends up really meaning. It's incredible, incredible, incredible. So I fucking love this little speech from Yolenta and her like concern about how much she cares about it, how beautiful she finds it. Using letters, a person can cross space and time. That's exactly how I phrase it. And I have to imagine that the fact that I have phrased things that way so many times is a part of why people really wanted me to watch this show, because it's like right on. You might be connected to 1,000 years ago. You might be laughing about a guy who fucking gives terrible bronze. But when I read, I'm no longer trapped in the narrow view of my finite, limited body and mind. Instead, I can see into the past. They might spur action far into the future. What else could you call that but a miracle? Well, then, will you teach me? Piast writes his last entry into the book and falls over, turns up to the sky and sees it. The beauty, the truth. And in his last moments, he acquires the thing he's been looking for so long and carries it with him into the next life he believes in. Bam. Fulfilling his mentor's final wishes in his own final moments. That's tight. That's tight. It all loops. It's all connected. It feels really freaking good, y'all. Feels really freaking good. I think this is my favorite episode of Orb so far. I am really excited to see where we go from here because this is quite a peak. And if we can stay anywhere in the ballpark, I mean, that's exciting. It took a lot to get here in terms of building up these themes over time and some of the subtext over time. But I do think that hit it out of the park. I think this episode was a home run thematically, and all I can do is like applaud and give it thumbs up. I think I'm gonna wrap there, y'all. What a wonderful episode of Orb. What a wonderful piece of storytelling. Thanks for watching it with me. I'll see you next week for the next one. Much love. Peace.